Hello everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show. So, I know these following words I say a lot, but just because I say them a lot doesn't mean they're not true. And today they are possibly more true for this than they have been for almost anything else. What we are taking a look at today, I am very excited about. There, we got that out of the way, because what we have is the SUPER7 SDCC 2024 exclusive Sheila the Thief Cloak of Invisibility from the Dungeons & Dragons, the upcoming Dungeons & Dragons, the cartoon line from SUPER7, and I am very excited about this. I have often said that Godzilla was probably my first fandom, but I don't think that's true the more I think about it. Like, it may have been Dungeons & Dragons, and it was just because, like, I played D&D before it was really a fandom. Like, when I played D&D back in, like, the 70s, the late 70s and early 80s, it was really this niche thing that, like, you didn't really talk about it if you played it. And the only thing that hit mainstream media, and they were trying to make it mainstream, was the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon. And I absolutely loved it. It was one of the few cartoons from the 80s that, like, I really got into, because I think you've heard me say before, like, I was never a fan of the Masters of the Universe cartoon, of the Filmation series. I was never a fan, really, of the G.I. Joe cartoon. It was always the comics for me. And with D&D, the cartoon that came out for it, like, really drew me in. It was really cool the way that it was set up. You could identify all of the classes, you could identify all of the races, at least you could at the time that we were playing. And I was, even as a kid, I was upset when they just stopped making cartoons and, like, the kids never found their way back home. Who knew, like, 3 or 4 years ago, a Swedish car commercial would bring them home.
Hora de voltar pra casa, crianças.
Tolos nunca escaparão.
Beto, faz alguma coisa!
Deixe o impossível para trás.
Peraí, cadê o Uni?
Novo Renault Kwid Outsider, o SUV dos compactos.
And then, like, a few years ago when Hasbro came out with the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon figures, I didn't really get into those. You may have even heard me sort of, like, badmouth them a little bit. They weren't great. They felt dated before they even hit the shelf, and I never bought into them. I didn't buy them because, honestly, I was waiting for NECA to come out with a cartoon line of figures, because they already had Warduke and Grimsword, and then they came out with Strongheart and the other ones, Elkhorn, and I can never remember the goblin's name, Zarek, I think. And so I was waiting for them to come out with the cartoon line of figures But lo and behold, here we have Super7's Ultimates, and I've even pre-ordered the entire first wave from Super7's website themselves so that I could get the special, like, pack-in with them when you order from Super7. So I have those coming, and I'm really excited about it. I was really excited about this. I knew as soon as we saw Sheila that the translucent Sheila was going to be the Comic-Con exclusive, because why wouldn't you make a translucent Sheila? That was her whole deal. You pulled the cape up, you pulled the hood up, she turned invisible. It was awesome. It was a Cloak of Invisibility, hence the name Cloak of Invisibility. So when this went up for sale on the Super7 website after SDCC, I swear I ordered this in like the first minutes that it went live. It sold out originally, but as of the time of this recording, I'm pretty sure they're back up for sale for pre-order, actually, I think, on Super7's website. If they are, I will put a link to that in the description below if you want to check that out. Now, I don't have much experience with the Ultimates line. The only thing Ultimates I've really been collecting are the Godzilla figures. Because, like, the Ultimates line, there was never, like, a line that I wanted to go, like, all in on. I would have done Thundercats if I hadn't, like, shown up to the party for Super7 a little too late. I would have started from Wave 1. Silverhawks was never really my thing. The G.I. Joe figures are based on the cartoon, and like I just said, I was never a fan of the cartoon, but these, D&D, I am totally all in on. I've even pre-ordered Tiamat already, that big monstrosity. Can't wait for next year for that to show up. So, this, much like our Blood Prince Dracula and, what was it, Omen of Darkness, Forgotten King, from the Monster Force line, this is going to be our first look at the Super7 line of Dungeons & Dragons figures. And I am so excited about that. This packaging is fantastic. Like, you can see right here, this is the backdrop that came with the Hasbro Venger. Venger was the only one that I picked up, the Venger and Dungeon Master 2-pack, because I wanted Venger. And you can see there's the Dragon Maw that they rode the roller coaster into, which is, of course, our main feature for the packaging, which is just awesome. This looks fantastic. There's some texturing to it. It has a very deluxe feel to it. The only thing I was a little upset about was normally the Ultimates figures have like a slip cover over them, and I guess they're kind of veering away from that. Like, the lines that already exist may come with a slip cover still, but I guess the new lines are just going to be the box, that there's not going to be a slip cover for it. That's kind of a bummer, but it's probably saving them huge amounts of money just for that thin piece of cardboard that has to go over every box. So we have the Dragon Maw right here, which was the entrance to the ride when the car went in. We have some nice stonework on either side right here, which I think is really cool. Up top, the image continues. We have the Ultimates logo with the horns for the dragon. On the bottom, we have, you know, the legal stuff, Super7, all of that. Just green, just green on the bottom. Now on the back here, this is actually really cool, because we have some images from the cartoon right there of Sheila in action. And then right here, we have stats for Sheila. And I think these are reprints of the 3rd edition stats from the cartoon handbook that came out. I think that's the only time we had stats for them, and I think this is just a reprint of those. And it says right here, NC, medium humanoid, human. I think that's supposed to be NG. I think that's supposed to be neutral good. Like, there's no neutral chaotic. I think that's supposed to be neutral good, medium humanoid. So that's the only typo I was able to find, but I really like that they put these stats on here as well, which is making me hope that, like, all of the figures that come out are going to have stats on the back, even if they didn't originally have them in the game. Like, Dekion is coming out. It's going to be really cool if Dekion is going to have a stat box right there. So I also set up this backdrop because with Sheila being a translucent figure and having the white cape and everything, or the white cloak and everything, I'm not entirely sure she was going to show up on the white background. So hopefully against this backdrop, we'll have, it's kind of folding in a little bit, we'll have a better shot of getting her seen on camera. You can see that the camera is actually having a bit of a hard time focusing on her. Because she be invisible. Hold on, let me see if I can get this zoomed in. There we go. So this is going to be interesting to see how well she stays in focus. So let's find out together. Let's not waste any more time and let's get this box open, because I am really pumped up to take a look at SUPER7 Ultimate's Dungeons & Dragons the cartoon, Sheila the Thief, Cloak of Invisibility. Okay, so here she is, Sheila, out of the box, and SUPER7 Ultimates are typically at the 7-inch scale. So putting the tape measure to her, we can see that she is about 6.5 inches tall to the top of her head. And normally I get a little frustrated when they make the female figures so much smaller than the male figures. But this time, I'm going to wait and see how the other female of the line, Diana, stacks up with the male figures before I comment on that. Because truthfully, in the cartoon, Sheila was depicted as being a shorty, basically. Like, the only one that was smaller than her was her kid brother Bobby, who was a barbarian, who was maybe about that tall to her. So she is supposed to be shorter than the rest. I'm hoping Diana is going to be a little bit taller, a little bit closer to the 7-inch size, but we'll have to wait and see for that. Taking a closer look at her, I'm not sure how much detail we're going to see with this figure, being that it is a translucent figure. And whenever we've looked at translucent figures before, it's always a little difficult to see the detail for it. However, truthfully, I don't know how much detail there is going to be for this figure, considering this is based off of an 80s cartoon character, and SUPER7 has always been very good about doing like 3D interpretations of 2D images, especially from the 80s cartoons. And back in the 80s, everything was hand-drawn, so the designs were very simple, so that they could sit there and churn out episode after episode after episode, hand-drawing it. So I have a feeling that once we get a better look at her, that this will be basically a 3D representation of what we saw in 2D form in the 80s, that it's going to be very simple and the coloring is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting. However, the few details that we can see, I really dig. That if we bring her back up and we take a look at this, like these buttons right here are actually attached to the figure. These are supposed to be the anchor points between the tunic and, or these are supposed to be the anchor points of like her Cloak of Invisibility, but popping the head off, we can see that they are just anchored to the body right there, so that it just looks like the cloak is anchored, and I like that. While the head is off, we can also see that there is a hinge joint right there with the ball on top for the head sculpts. So I like that. It's a simple way of just making it look like it's anchored in place, and I really dig that. We can also see the sleeves are turned up a little right here, but bringing it up closer and taking a look at the face sculpt, one of the things that I like, one of the things that I was, I don't know if worried or concerned is the right way of saying it, but I thought the digital renders for Sheila made her cheeks look just a little too chubby. Like, she did have like a softer face than like Diana did, who we talked about before, but like I didn't think they were as chubby as they were in the digital renders. And it looks right, like in this, it looks like they slimmed that down a little and gave her more shape to her face, which I appreciate. I also dig that, like, to bring out the detail, you can see there's white paint apps for the eyes and the lips and even the eyebrows right there, just so you can actually make out a bit of a face whenever you're looking at it. The hair is a very soft rubber, so it won't break, and it will hopefully bend a little bit whenever you're trying to like move her head around. I always love whenever they're able to do like soft plastic with the translucent plastic, because traditionally when I was a kid and there was translucent plastic, it was always so brittle. And it seems like we're coming a long way with this, because we also have some soft plastic down here on the skirting of her tunic, so that it will get out of the way a little bit with her leg articulation, which we'll take a look at in a moment. Also, we have this all cloth goods cape right here, her cloak. The only thing that I wish this had was a wire in it so that you could do poses. Where's the box at? So that you could do poses like this one right here, where she's kind of pulling it up and running and the cloak is billowing out behind her. But that is not a deal breaker for me. Just a little bit of a, man, I wish they had. But I like the material that they use. It's light, but it's not see-through like how the Masters of the Universe, like Masterverse figures, their cloaks, their capes are very like, you can see the light through it, you can see through it. I like the material that they use right here. It has a bit of a shine to it as well, which is important for her, you know, Cloak of Invisibility. The hood is just a little bit finicky trying to pull up and cover her head because she has a lot of hair and the hood does not have an elastic band in it, which I kind of wish that it did. And you can see it doesn't quite stretch easily. There we go. But once we get it on, it looks good on her. My only other wish list for this one is that I wish that when it came up, hold on, let me get this situated here. That when it came up, it would sit a little further out, that like her head would be a little bit more recessed in there so you could do the whole, you know, pull this down over her brow look. I also wish that this had a wire built into it, because if you saw my, and once again, I don't mean to keep promoting this the way so aggressively, but if you saw my members only video for Storm Shadow, Storm Shadow's hood has a wire built into this right here, and it really helps to like shape it and get it to lay right. Like, this looks good. This is cool. I like this. If I had a wish list built up for this, it would be just to make the hood a little deeper and give it that wire. But it does pull down very easily, and it just looks cool. I like how it billows up right here. Like, it has that look to it that she had in the cartoon, and I so dig that. I like that the cape is white. I was wondering how they were going to do this. I was kind of worried that it was going to be a translucent plastic cape, but I'm glad that they went with a cloth goods cape, just like what we're going to get with the actual Ultimates figure once the first wave comes out. So, enough about that. Let's take a look at the articulation, that the head will do a full 360 spin. She should be able to look up. You see, I popped the head off. She should be able to look up fairly well, which she can look up, but not as far as I would like it to go. But I do believe it's the hair that is blocking her, because when she looks down, she can really look down. And there is some tilt side to side, not a whole lot, but we do get it in there. Now the arms will do a full 360 spin. There is no butterfly joint right there, but there is a bicep swivel. Let's get this. First of all, let's get this arm up. That it will come up past 90, as you can see. There is a bicep swivel right there. There is also a hinge and swivel at the shoulder, single jointed hinge, or single hinged elbow that will come up to 90. Okay. And we have wrists that swivel and hinge in and out. And I believe all of her hands hinge in and out. She doesn't have any weapon wielding hands because, quite frankly, she doesn't have a weapon. Now we have a ball joint here at the waist that she can do a full 360 spin there. She can crank back real well. This waistband of her skirting really has some flex to it to get out of the way, so she can crank back real well for that. And she can come forward fairly well, not nearly as much as she can go back. Legs will come out to the side. There is a split in the skirt so that the legs can come up, and it almost, I don't know, just under 90 right there. The legs will come forward. Now the skirting, once again, will come up a little bit, but you can't get them as forward as you can out to the side. Also, they go back. There is no thigh cut, which surprised me. I thought there was going to be a thigh cut right here at the top of the boot, but it does have that sort of like hidden crotch joint right here that NECA and McFarlane Toys use. I didn't know that. I don't have very many Ultimates. I thought they had a thigh cut, but no, they have this joint in there. Now they have a single hinge knee, or she has a single hinge knee that only comes up to there, just under 90. And there is a boot cut, and it swivels right here. I was kind of hoping that it was going to be a hinge and swivel at the knee so that when it was bent like this, you would be able to swing the knee this way rather than having it pivot that way. That's one thing for the articulation that I would have loved to have changed, was that the hinge and swivel would have been above the knee instead of below the knee. Now we have the ankles rock back way far, the ankles rock forward fairly well, and there is a forward-facing pin for some rocker. And something that I love is that, and we'll get a better look at this once we have the actual figures painted in hand, these are just boots. They're not combat wedges, they're not heels, they're just flat bottom boots, which is what she had in the cartoon, because if you've seen the show enough, you know one of my pet peeves is I hate the combat wedges or battle boots that they put on female figures. So out of the box, and I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, but she has a pair of small grasping hands right here. And I believe these are the hands that you will use the most for like those poses where she's pulling the hood up. I feel like these hands were made to grasp the hood. I'm curious, now that I think about it, because they are single jointed elbows, is she able to get a hold on the hood? We'll have to take a look at that. Let's do that now. Let's pull this up. And okay, here we go. Oh, this is probably better. So bring the arms in, bend them like that. She's not going to get a hold on it super low, but she can get that pose of pulling it up over her head. So that's cool. I like that. At least she can get that going. If I can figure out how to move the arms so that she can get it down here a little bit better, you'll see that in the comics. You'll see that in the photos at the end. But I think that's what we're going to be going with. She also has a pair of clenched fists. And she has this pair of sort of action hands that she has this open hand right here. And then she has a hand that has like some offset fingers that might be some sort of gripping hand. And I don't know if her standard figure, I know it comes with a net, but I don't know if there's a standard, if there's any like other accessories that she has that she may wield. I'm trying to think if there are even any accessories that she could come with from the cartoon, but I don't know. Maybe we'll find out if this is supposed to do something, hold something once we get that first wave in. So in addition to multiple hands, Sheila also comes with multiple head sculpts. That this one, for as best as you can see, is her neutral face. Just a little bit of a smile, a little bit of happy Sheila going on, but we have two more as well. That we have this one that is more of her surprised look, maybe her fearful look. You can see her mouth, her eyes are open wide, she has her straight brows. Her mouth is sort of like a surprised or shocked look on there. But then we also have this one, which is Sheila getting down to business. You can see the furrowed brow. You can see the little smirk on her face. This is like she's ready to take on Venger. She's ready to take on Tiamat. She's ready, well, maybe not Tiamat. She's ready to take on the Shadow Demon. So we have options for Sheila, which I like. I don't remember her having a face like this too much in the cartoon, but I dig getting it for the figure. And now for size comparison, I almost forgot. I do have another Ultimates figure that I compare her up with. This is the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, I believe it was just last year, 2023, SUPER7 Ultimates Bat. It's the blue paint job instead of the black one. So I'm assuming that the other figures like Hank and Dekion and the rest that are coming with this line are going to be more in scale with him. And this is the Hasbro Dungeons & Dragons cartoon series Target exclusive Venger that was part of the 2-pack of Venger and Dungeon Master, and that's actually where this backdrop came from. So he's on the taller side. He's probably at about the 7-inch scale as well. I'm betting Super7's Venger is going to be a little bit taller than that. I don't know for certain, but I would bet that's what's going to happen. But in the meantime, he's going to size up pretty well with at least the first wave. Another 7-inch scale fantasy line. Here she is with Mattel Masters of the Universe, Masterverse, New Eternia, Battle Armor, He-Man, and Masters of the Universe movie Skeletor. Here she is beside McFarlane Toys, The Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt, Geralt of Rivia, and Arid Brioc Glass. And it has been legitimately so long since I've pulled these out that I don't know where my Siri went. I would have liked to have sized her up next to the female figure of the line, but sorry, I'm not sure what happened to her. And finally, here's the matchup that I've been waiting for, the one I was anticipating the most when I opened this figure up. Here she is beside NECA Toys, Dungeons & Dragons, Strongheart, and Warduke. And I think these NECA figures are going to size up very well with the Ultimates line. Even if these two are a little bit bigger than the standard line, that's fine. I'm okay with that. These two should be a little bit larger than life for the line. I would really be okay with that. I would really think that's cool, like especially Warduke over here. They'll probably be more detailed than the Ultimates figures will, just because we know that's Super7's style. But I don't care. I think this is all going to size up very nicely. And here she is beside DM from that Target 2-pack. I have never considered myself a slave to nostalgia, and I know nostalgia is like the big thing going around right now, especially with the revival of all of these 80s brands. But honestly, like, I've never really felt that I give into that very much. As a matter of fact, even my beloved G.I. Joe series, which I was a huge fan of with the vintage line, I get more excited about figures in the classified line that are new instead of being exact replicas of the 80s vintage figures. Now, having said that, Dungeons & Dragons in general, not just this cartoon, is probably something that I really like. The nostalgia kick really gets to me with D&D. I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons since it was split into Dungeons & Dragons and First Edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons before there was a saying First Edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. D&D was one of the things that helped me learn how to read when I was a kid, because I wanted to read the manuals, I wanted to read the player's handbook, I wanted to read the monster manuals, I wanted to know what my character sheet said when I was writing things down. I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons for as long as I can remember. That's not hyperbole either. Like, I can't remember a time when I was a kid that I wasn't playing Dungeons & Dragons, because my older brother and his friends played. And it was just something that, like, even if I wasn't able to play with them, I would sit in and just watch their sessions. I've always had this draw, this affiliation, this just love of D&D. So when the first Hasbro figures came out, I didn't buy them because I didn't like them. They didn't live up to the expectation that I had. When Super7 came out with the line, I got excited about that, and I thought, yeah, this is what I've been waiting for. This is why I didn't buy the Hasbro ones. This is what I want. And if Sheila here is any indication of what we're going to be getting with that first wave, I don't think I was wrong in my thoughts behind the line. I don't think I was wrong to wait for this line rather than go in on the Hasbro line. It does have the standard Super7 articulation, single jointed elbows, single jointed knees, and I know for a lot of people that's a no-go for them, that they want to have the double jointed elbows, they want to have the double jointed knees, they want to have like the super articulation of the modern figures, which they're getting with the new TMNT line, I believe, that's coming out. But for something like this, like the articulation in the Hasbro figures was pretty much the same as these, and it wasn't even the articulation that I didn't like. It was just the sculpt, it was the way they looked, it was the design of them, and maybe to a point it was the articulation, because even with those Hasbro ones, Hank wasn't able to pull the bow back at a full draw. I believe that with the Super7 ones, he's going to be able to do that. At least I really hope he's going to be able to do that. Either way, getting this figure in hand, it makes me even more excited for the first wave that's going to be coming out later this year. It gets me so excited, as a matter of fact, that I wish I had this figure last year, because when I went to RetroCon, something that's coming up soon that I'll be going to as well, the voice actor for Sheila was at RetroCon, and I would have loved to have had her autograph this figure. That would have been really cool. Now we just have the long wait for the first wave coming out. I think SUPER7 said that it's coming out in October, but I wouldn't be surprised if that gets pushed back. We have the long wait for Tiamat. I believe she's not coming out for another year, and I'm really curious to see when Wave 2 of the Dungeons & Dragons line is going to go up for pre-order. Also, they have Vecna up for pre-order now, and he's not from the cartoon. He's just from Dungeons & Dragons in general. He's one of like the big bad NPCs. So I'm really curious to see how many more figures they're going to come out from the game, not just the cartoon series. I'm also curious to see if they're going to expand to like the novels and things like that. There's so many possibilities for this line right now. Hello, and don't go yet. Before you do, please remember to do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. If you already are a subscriber, you rock. If you like what we do here and you want to help the channel grow, please consider becoming a YouTube channel member or a Coffee monthly subscriber, where for $1 a month you can get access to member benefits like our monthly membership video. This month it is the Mezco 112 Collective Storm Shadow. So until next time, my friends, play well, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, thank you for watching.